So, George, here we are, 1 year on. So I don't think we can talk about like things that we're proudest about without talking about the amount of data stored on Walrus. Like, I think we've got over 400 terabytes of unencoded data. Like that is a lot of data.
That is a lot of data.
And we have been really careful and mindful, because I know that at the beginning, we used to have lots of discussions along with Annie and the leadership team about what were our metrics of success. And you were always so vehement that data stored was not a metric for success, because anybody can go and load any old amount of rubbish. So we've been super, super mindful of the data that either we've partnered with people to get up there or encouraged people, to put on partners. I think I'm really proud that we have been kind of that focused and we didn't fool ourselves. So that 400 terabytes is very honest, clean data. The fact that we can handle that, the system, at points, it was quite a lot of data going through the system, handled it brilliantly. That is a good milestone, I think.
Yeah, I think it is an important milestone. And also it's an important both proof point that the system works as intended. And also, to be candid, it was not entirely a walk in the park from a technical point of view.
You didn't tell me that. When I joined, you said, this is done.
So I think that when we started building Walrus, our assumption was that people will want to upload bigger files, right?
Yeah.
Images, videos, books, whatever, right? Like many megabytes, right? And then when we got some of our first usage, if you want, we realized that yes, people do want to upload humongous files sometimes. Like we actually had people asking us, can I upload a whole terabyte and things like that. That doesn't actually make entire sense, but we had. But also it seems people love uploading tiny little files.
Lots of them.
Lots of them, like
all
terabytes of text files and things like that. So this came a little bit as a surprise. Within the first 3 to 6 months, we actually had to rework quite a bit of the system to support that and support it well. Like you could do it before, it was just more expensive. Talking with partners at the time, they told us this is not acceptable, right? I mean, we wanted to not just be possible and fast, but also super cheap, right? So we released a number of technologies to make that possible.
Yeah,
Quilt. And Quilt was so successful that it literally reduced the revenues of the network quite significantly.
That's true. And from a business perspective, I had to deal with that.
That's right.
It's like, how often do you say, look, our revenue has gone down, we've been super successful?
That was the narrative. That was a strange moment, indeed.
Evan, I promise you, it's all good.
Yeah. So it was not a walk in the park. It is important to have a baseline of data just to, if anything, to convince yourself that you can store that data, serve that data, maintain that data, you have all the infrastructures necessary. Also to get the community used to, putting Walrus in the heart of their systems. Now, going forward, I think that this is not a metric that is worthwhile taking to infinity.
Agreed.
Right? So what matters is the value people get out of the data they store, they read, etc. Right? So the name of the game is now turning the amount of data gain into the amount of value gain.
One thing we talk a lot about, and you're so great at explaining things, is verifiable data. And we are calling Walrus the verifiable data platform. So we're putting it front and center. Tell me from an actual kind of technical point of view, what is verifiable data?
Verifiable data is about building architectures that really ensure that, we know where the original data came from. We know what happened to the data at every stage of processing. We know that the data is going to be there and we can prove it to other people. And we know that the data we have stored is indeed the same as the data we're reading. And, the chain of evidence, if you want, has not been broken. And we can demonstrate that to third parties as well, because it's not just about you having some assurance about your own data. It's also about, some auditor coming in or some business partner coming in and you being able to demonstrate to them that some processing has happened on correct data leading to correct outcomes.
So that is interesting. If I am going to challenge that, do we really need another system to do that? We have lots of data storage systems in the world, to the point that data storage is kind of a commodity now. Why do we need another one? Do we not trust data that has very happily lived in big global systems?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And to some extent, one could think about building better verifiable data systems, if you want, on traditional clouds or your own hard disk, etc. But it would only go so far and no further, right? It would basically maybe guarantee that the data is the same as you read and all of these things. But it wouldn't, for example, guarantee that with very high assurance, if part of the infrastructure disappears, your data will still be there, right? That a decentralized storage system like Walrus guarantees, right? For very high levels of assurance. It would also not be able to be so convincing to third parties. And I think that this is very important, right? So you can go to a cloud, you can store the data, you can put a lot of security measures around to convince yourself that the data is still the same, that it has only gone through some processing, etc. But if you turn up, how do I convince you of that fact, right? So to some extent, these decentralized systems, Walrus, with its ability to prove that the data is there, to prove through technologies like Nautilus that the data has been processed in particular ways, to prove that it is the same as it was stored, to prove through its metadata being on a blockchain, SWI, the chain of custody. These decentralized systems, Walrus, SWI, Nautilus, Seal for encryption, they effectively act as guarantors for third parties to also trust something about the data.
So this just screams AI to me, like everything that we are seeing unfold in front of us that is just getting faster and faster, with agents making decisions on our behalf. It is going to be so important that we understand what data those agents use to make those decisions, how they got to those decisions. The more we're relying on agents and the faster we're running into this new reality, the more important it is that we can look at what data those agents used to make those decisions and verify that it was correct. Because we're now no longer just writing nice emails or doing tone of voice through ChatGPT. We are looking at agents actually executing financial transactions on our behalves. Not only that, like we've all been using OpenClaw and relying on these GPTs in our everyday life. And as I'm typing into them, I'm like, I don't want everyone to know that my train of thought that perhaps has gone from Walrus strategy to my fitness results to what am I going to buy my mother for her birthday? Like, I need that to be private and I need it to be safe. So the storing and the security that Walrus gives in that situation, to me, seems like an absolute no-brainer for this future we're going into. So, George, one of the things I love about our friendship is you're very generous with your time and your mind, and you're extraordinarily good at explaining things. So we talk about AI all the time. And, we kind of know ChatGPT and we now know, OpenClaw, but as a real technical mind, can you help me understand what are the limitations that we're seeing at the moment in this AI stack, and where is it falling down, and what are the gaps in it?
Yeah, I think that to some extent, we, as of today, have just stumbled on the current state of AI, right? So there was a revolution, which was this, modern kind of LLM, which, a friend of mine keeps saying is just an autocomplete, right? It's like you give it some stuff and then it autocompletes. But there is an interesting gap between an LLM just as an autocomplete and an LLM as a full agent, right? And I think that gap is really where we're only seeing the beginning of what AI can do, but we're also seeing the limits of the current stacks. In order for an LLM to become an agent, it needs to be able to read the world and act on the world, first of all. it also needs to have a concept of longer-term memory than just the context window it's given, right? It's a little bit like, when you're taking a task, as a human, right, and you're trying to do it, you have a limited amount of working memory. I can only remember like 5 things at any point, right? So it's kind of curious that given that we humans can only remember 5 things, how can we do so many complex things, right, that sometimes take us days or months to achieve? Well, it's simple, right? I mean, you write it down, you write a few things down, you make notes, you remind yourself, you synthesize your notes. In some sense, agents today are no different, right? They have a very short amount of working memory, much bigger than humans actually, but still short. But they still need to refer all the time to their own notes, as well as potentially to notes from the world and from other agents in order to complete tasks. And nowadays, agents work in swarms. So in fact, they start to exchange notes, etc. And that part of the architecture is becoming a little bit problematic, right? Because to a great extent, the current models we have is to keep these nodes either on a cloud server or in your local computer. But these 2 points, come with their own challenges. If you just keep it on your own computer disappears, all your nodes disappear, your agent is born anew, right? It's like if you basically are starting the project from zero.
And this is actually a challenge with this move to on-prem storage, back to on-prem storage,
exactly,
which we think is secure.
You think it's secure, but then it's not survivable. You keep on the other side these memories, which are quite intimate depending on what you're doing. It's really the heart of your business process on a server. And then suddenly, of course, all your data can be seen by that third party, which you may or may not want. Okay. So, and that third party goes away, your data goes away again. So it's a relationship of dependency that extends potentially in time. So that's the starting point, which is awkward, right? But I think it gets much worse in some ways, right? Because what it turns out, I think, is that LLMs today and agents, right? They are basically your average person. In order for them to really act as professionals, if you want, right? To be like, no, you are going to be a developer, or you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a marketing manager that plans a campaign. What you need to do is you need to create memories effectively of these agents acting as such, and the processes that these professionals would follow to ensure quality, to ensure, all the good things, right, that lead to good outcomes. And agents, on average, need that kind of infrastructure to act as professionals. So suddenly, if you want that memory, is not anymore just, a casual trace of what the agent has done so far that is helpful. It truly is the soul of the agent, right? It is really what is its personality, but what is also its professional qualification to do particular things. So sometimes these skills, which right now are just files, but they can be collection of files, they can be refined over time, they can be the result of a collaboration within a professional organization, they become valuable. Right? The skills file within a hedge fund of how to be a trader is probably going to be their secret sauce. Like they will not want that set of skills files and strategies to just go and live on some server, and they will not also want to lose it. So there has to be some kind of solution to that problem, and I think Walrus is providing part of that solution. Namely, if you want highly survivable yet private storage for these memories, Walrus is the key place.
George, like seriously, 3 minutes with you is like a lifetime with books or ChatGPT. I absolutely love talking to you. And as you know, I could talk to you for hours, and I do. I just couldn't be more grateful that I'm at Walrus, that I'm working with this thing that you've built with the guys, and that it is going to be an integral part of this AI future that we're all just seeing how it unfolds. So I don't know what you think about when we sit here in a year's time. What do you hope to see? I know what I hope to see.
just some things that I hope we will see maybe in the next year, right? And then in a year's time, we can sit here and look back maybe at these.
Look how wrong our predictions
Yeah,
were.
it's not quite predictions. It's more like hopes, if you want, right? What kind of thing I would hope to see build, and maybe I will just vibe myself in the evenings if I don't see anyone building, right? The first thing that I would like to see is much more kind of like actual web services using Walrus directly, right? So currently there is a lot of kind of like partners, and actually Sui itself is using Walrus in order to store its history. Other businesses are reading through that, making sure it's correct, and that's great. That's more of a business back-end kind of use of Walrus, very high value, very valid. But we also built Walrus to be fast enough to serve users directly, right? For users to write to it and for users to read direct. The second thing I would like to see is indeed AI agents using Walrus to communicate with each other and to build, I mean, let's face it, to build their own civilization, right? It's like, because this human civilization that we have built is
so messy,
cool.
so messy.
It's pretty cool. It would be very exciting to see Walrus being part of that civilizational shift, to actually see how agents can use Walrus for long-term memory, communication, and also verifiability, to make sure that, you know, when they use these memories, they are the right memories, and they know where they come from, and they can trust them or not trust them. And they can build reputations potentially, etc. So having Walrus being a technology that is part of that civilization level conversation is really exciting, and I hope we will see much more of it in the next 12 months.
George, thank you for the last 12 months. May we have many, many more 12 months together.
Absolutely. I look forward to this conversation in a year's time and all the work we have to do until then.
There'll be two agents having this conversation in a year, George.